4 Philadelphia Eagles have been ruled out for the game already on Sunday, and that is 2 safeties, 1 tight end, and a wide receiver. We're going to get into that right now and more with Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast here as we get 2 safeties, a tight end, and a wide receiver. 4 players out. 1 wide receiver, though, is back. It looks like that Devontae Smith will play, but a little injury issues here for the Eagles on Sunday, something that they haven't had a whole heck of a lot of, Adam, in recent weeks.
Yeah, Mike, good to talk to you. So we as continuing our tradition for many years here with you and I on Fridays, we'll break in with the injury report, and there's new information, so we're going to give you stuff you haven't talked about here. So look, Sidney Brown's not playing on defense really, so it doesn't really matter for that standpoint, but it sure as heck matters as a gunner on special teams. He was the one who was responsible for that ball being down at the 1-yard line, so that's problematic for special teams coverage. Reed Blankenship, as we fully expected, would not play. Mike, he never even got cleared to get on the field in limited work, so he never progressed enough in the protocol to even make it even interesting. So he's out. Tristan McCullum will start, who did a great job last week on short notice. But look, their depth at safety is a problem. That's an issue. Now, Britton Covey, as you understand, was not cleared for contact on his neck. He was able to go out there and work. That was not the problem. He felt good enough to work, but he was not cleared for contact, so he will not play. And Dallas Goedert, which we knew all week, won't play. We don't know exactly when he's going to get cleared to play. So let's look at this. So, Mike, right now, I would think Avonte Maddox will be the third safety because they're down 2. There's really no reason to. I mean, look, you could look at Andre Sam, and certainly you could have him in there. But Mike, you don't want to put in a guy. Sure, he could be the 4th safety. You'd like to dress 4 safeties, and Andre Sam has elevations, but you want to have a guy that has playing experience. And we could all say Avonte Maddox isn't the same player, and all this and that and the other, but Avonte Maddox line up a ton in training camp at safety. So that would be that's one of their options in terms of depth. Now, as far as punt returns, they have 2 choices: Cooper DeJean, who filled in for Covey before Covey came back from his injury, or Anaya Smith, the rookie receiver who was on their 53-man roster. As you know, Mike, he's played a little bit, so they have some decisions there. And then, of course, at tight end, it's going to be Grant Calcaterra and C.J. Uzama. Uzama will be the wide tight end, the inline tight end, and the move tight end will be Calcaterra, which he's done, and he's a pretty good athlete. So they've got some recourse here. The depth is going to be tested, and one of the secret sauces of the Eagles this season is how good their depth has been. And we didn't know that before the season started, Mike, but to be honest with you, the depth's a lot better than we expected.
Well, one of the things this offense has had, for whatever reasons, they really haven't been at full strength very often. They won't be again with Goddard out, but what does the return of Devontae Smith mean for this Eagles offense to get Smith and Brown back? And, they got to start clicking with those guys over these last 4 weeks here.
So, Mike, think of it this way. If they didn't have Smith and Goddard's not playing, look, we know that nobody runs the ball more than the Eagles. We know that's coming anyway, regardless. We also know that the big 3, Smith, Brown, and Goddard, have only played 4 games together. I think it's around that number. So it's not like they haven't dealt with this before. But getting Smith back, your 2 starting outside receivers, is major. We know he could also play inside. Johnny Wilson, we should mention a couple more things here. Mekhi Becton clear with a knee issue. Johnny Wilson, who did not travel with the team last week with a hamstring injury, he's been cleared to play. That's good. They needed depth, and he's there to block only, really, quite frankly. So it gives them an ability to not only play 12 personnel and their heavy 12 personnel, they're top 5 in 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends, 2 receivers, 1 back, but to even play 11 personnel, 3 receivers, 1 tight end, 1 back. Like you need more receivers. They're not going to play very little 11 personnel if you don't have Smith. So they got Devontae back. Now we'll see if he can play his full complement of stats. But the good thing is, he tested the injury in pregame warm-ups last week. He felt that he wasn't ready. He clearly was ready this week to play. And I'll tell you what, Mike, Carolina's got a good defense. In terms of pass defense, run defense is terrible. They're the worst in the National Football League. But they have a good secondary, and they've got some veterans back there, including J.C. Horn, who we reported this 3 years ago, how much the Eagles liked him. So it'll be interesting to see what their approach is. But you know what theoretically is going to be to run the heck out of the football.
Yeah.
A, it's what they do, and B, that's what the Panthers don't do well. But in terms of, okay, off of play action, are they going to try their deep game, which they really haven't had a lot of this season?
Yeah, it'll be interesting this week. They don't, right, as you mentioned, we had David Newton on from ESPN.com who covers the Panthers, and he brought it up as well that, they just cannot stop the run. And this feels like the kind of game where you can get a lot of chunk yardage for Saquon, then maybe, get him closer to that so you don't have to think about using him later. So this could be a big Saquon week here for Philadelphia. What are some of the reasons in your mind why this Panthers team? Look, they pushed the Chiefs to the brink. They pushed the Bucs, who beat the Eagles and the Lions, by the way, to the brink. Dave Newton said the last 2 weeks, it has been the best 2 games they have played all season long.
Yeah, Mike, I would say this with Carolina. First of all, Bryce Young is way more under control. He's getting rid of the football. He was holding too much. He was indecisive. Now you feel like he can make throws. And getting back Adam Thielen back from his hamstring injury, that was big. He had that touchdown against the Raiders where he dove in the end zone from Andy Dalton, by the way, many weeks ago. And then on that catch, he went on into reserve and missed almost 2 months, but he's been back. The Chuba Hubbard's been a great story. It is interesting that Hubbard won the starting job in training camp at running back, and Miles, unfortunately, probably will not return with the ankle injury. He's on injury reserve, and Hubbard did so well this season and got a contract extension. So, and by the way, their offensive line's done a nice job. They've had some injuries there, but they've done a nice job. They're not taking as many sacks. They're able to spread the ball around. Their offense is moving the ball better. Their defense is playing more under control. Now, last week was a terrible loss, an awful choke. They lost that lead with 30 seconds left. The Bucs get it, and they score and force it to overtime, then they win. That was troubling. You have to wonder what kind of mindset the Panthers will have for this game at Philly.
It's interesting. What kind of mindset will they have? What kind of Philly last night watching that game thinking, oh, my Lord, we got the number 1 seed possibly, and then it gets ripped right out of your hands. Is there a little letdown feel for Philly there? You know what I mean?
I don't see it, Mike. I know this has been a big story. I get it.
Yep.
They have not played like that. They've shown nothing like last year, Mike. Now, I'm talking in the last several weeks here. Now, the Jacksonville game was so bizarre. Remember when they ran into it, the players on kickoff, returning it, they ran into each other and fumbled it. It was a series of events which probably would never happen again, Mike. So I don't see it, Mike. And you got to respect, as we just talked about, the way that the Panthers are playing. They're playing really competitive football. I know those games are at home, but the bottom line is they're playing good football right now.
Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast is with us. We told you 4 Eagles are out: Blankenship, Brown, Covey, and Dallas Goedert. So they'll have some injuries there on that side of the ball. Panthers have improved, but what about the Panthers' injuries on that side of the ball? They're already a team that's limited talent-wise. Are they coming in healthy?
Actually, this one's interesting. Jadeveon Clowney, all the indications would be, Mike, that he's going to play. But we should tell you, he didn't practice this week. Now, the list is questionable, so keep an eye on that one. And look, he's had a history against the Eagles. We know about that. He had some unkind things to say about the fans. I'm sure that's got circulated in social media. So that'll be fun to see. I got to assume he's going to play. I mean, he's been sort of a villain against the Eagles. He knocked Wentz out of the Seattle playoff game. In fact, we talked to Mike Pereira, the former director of officials. I remember I talked to him at the Super Bowl. We actually put a video on social media 4 years ago, and boy, did that go viral. It made a lot of people saw it. So we'll see what happens there if Clowney plays. But you would think he'd play even though he didn't practice. But overall, Mike, it's really about getting Clowney there. Jalen Coker is another guy that our Andrew DeCecco interviewed for in the offseason. He's not going to play. They thought he was earlier this week, but now he's not expected to play. But overall, they're healthier than they have been. They're a more competitive team. Now, how about the point spread being 12.5? That is a major number.
It's up to 13.5 at some places.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's too many. The favorites of 7 points or more are not covering very well this season.
Adam, before we let you roll on this Friday, we got to get your thoughts on the way the game went last night. Dan Campbell, that whole situation. I mean, obviously Nick's done it. He's gotten criticized. Dan's done it. It's backfired last night at work. But thoughts overall on Campbell's decision last night?
I like it. Look, everyone, I know even Kirk Herbstreit was not complimentary of doing it before the play. He's super aggressive. No one more aggressive, really. He's very consistent. I've seen just about every Lions game. It's rare for him not to go for it in a high leverage situation. It's just the way that he believes. Now, was Doug Peterson, the Eagles in 2017, the catalyst for this? Could have been. We've seen this a lot around the league where since then, a lot of teams are doing it when you don't think they should do it. But it works. Look, they could have taken the chip shot field goal. And quite now, that's the other thing. You never really know that the kid Jake Bates, he wound up being the money man. He got a game ball last night. But it's just interesting the way, look, everybody could have their opinion. You go by what the chart says, and you go from there. But they're a great football team. They're super banged up. Their defense, they're going to get most, not all of them. They're down by my research, and I chart injuries for every team. They were down 8 key players in their front 7. Yes, they have a lot of players on injured reserve, but you got to really go through who was actually important. 8 key players last night did not play for them, and they still found a way to win.
Yeah, they had 13 total injuries on the defensive side of the ball, so they persevered. And Mike, they could have factored into his decision. Hey, I'm banged up on defense. I got a shot to not give them the ball back. Let's roll. I mean, but this is what they do. You said it. They did it on 4th and 1 at their own 30 last night and did not get it, and it almost cost them because Green Bay scored the touchdown. But it's been interesting. You got Campbell, you got Sirianni, 2 aggressive guys, 2 aggressive organizations. And, of course, the Lions win last night. Philadelphia needs to try to keep pace this week. They'll do so against the Carolina Panthers here on 97.3 ESPN. Adam Caplan, InsideTheBirds.com, the Inside the Birds podcast, and, of course, here on Football at 4. Thanks, Adam.
Mike, thank you.